And welcome. My name is Tom Lelio. I'm your ultimate jet guide. And on today's podcast, we're going to pull back the curtain on private aviation. Whether you're a buyer or a broker or an aspiring broker, we help you buy or sell private jets with no experience necessary. But today is going to be different because we're going to be talking to the man, the myth, the legend himself. Well, we're not going to be talking to, we're going to be reacting to the man, the myth, the legend, the guy behind the jet business, Mr. Steve Varsano. Pulled up one of his recent YouTube videos, and he talks about what I've learned after selling private jets to billionaires for 40 years. And so I'm really excited to react to this. And something I wanted to bring up, for those of you out there that have been following me, I've been in the jet business for about 5 years, okay, which is a lot less than Steve and a lot less than other industry professionals. And I want to give a shout out and give credit where credit is due. Is there are a lot of people in the aviation industry that have done a lot more than I have. Okay, I've done well. I've shared with you my journey. I went from being a youth minister to selling private jets, and in my first year, sold 20 jets, made over $100,000, and then continued to build that success. So that 3 years later, I racked up to 60 transactions in those 3 years, and I took home in a single year over $500,000 in gross commissions. And so that's all I can vouch for, right? That's all that I've done. And if you want to do something like that, let's hang out, talk, ask me questions. I'm happy to pull back the curtain and share how I did that with you. But that's pretty much it. But there are people out there that have done amazing things, and they went from the sales world into the managerial world, into the charter world, into the dealer world, and they've gone off and started working with OEMs, with the manufacturers, or they just built an amazing sales business from the start, and they've done amazing things. And I don't want to take anything away from that. I know coming into the industry and pulling back the curtain can be, a little intimidating for people who have been doing it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Tom, what are you doing? You're setting yourself up as some kind of a guru or an expert. I'm not I'm a professional. I'm competent. I've been successful. I have a track record of success, and I'm just sharing that track record with people, and in hopes that, I don't want to be the Tom Brady of jet salesmen, but I would love to be a coach of the Tom Brady. I'd love to be a mentor to someone who becomes the best jet salesman in the world. I think that would be really cool. So anyway, just I wanted to toss that out there at the very beginning of the video. Let's check out what Steve has to say. It's a cool video. You can watch the original. But today we're going to go do a react. So let's see what we got.
21 again. What would I do differently? Wow. A lot of times people ask, if you started from zero today, what would you do first? It's so tough out there in the world. We calculated 1,500 millionaires that travel past the window every day. We deal with a lot of powerful people, wealthy people, billionaires, celebrity kind. The biggest reason I built a fuselage is, what are my top tips for starting a new business? First of all, who are you? That's the biggest question. Do you really know yourself? Do you know your capabilities? Do you know your drive? If you're the kind of person that really stuck to any project until it ended, no matter what, when you were a kid, when you were a teenager, or whatever, adult, if you can do that, if you did that, if that was your habit, then maybe you have a life as an entrepreneur to start a business.
I think this is really cool. And this is one of the challenges for the young people that I talk to. He asks, "Who are you?" And not everybody knows who they are, or even is capable of self-reflection. I think the key here, I think this was talking about, is self-reflection. Are you someone who can self-analyze? Can you pull yourself out of your own situation and understand a situation from somebody else's point of view? That if they looked at you, if an employer looked at you, would you be someone that they would hire, and why? Is it your work ethic? Is it your drive? Is it your passion? Is it your competency? What is that? And that's something I even see some aspiring brokers who have gotten in the industry. I was talking to somebody yesterday. They didn't have this self-reflection because they were like, they were struggling to get clients to sign an exclusive listing agreement. And I posed the question to them, why should they? Oh, well, we represent, yada, yada. Well, okay. So does every other broker out there. Oh, we're professionals. So is every other broker out there. Oh, we have connections. So does every other broker. You got to know yourself, be self-aware, and be somebody who has the drive. Also, he talks about being an entrepreneur. Yeah, jet salesmen are entrepreneurs. in a very real way.
Okay, but I'm talking about sitting down, starting your homework, not walking away until it's completely finished. If you had a project of cleaning a house until it's done, you didn't stop. If you had a project that somebody gave you at work, you didn't finish and walk away until it was completed. These are really signs of somebody who can start a business, because if you don't have that finish attitude, okay, no matter what, stepping over dead bodies to get to the end result, then you are not cut out to be an entrepreneur, and you can't start a business. You start a business with somebody else maybe who has those capabilities, but just because you have an idea, a fantastic idea, if you can't execute and stick to it, you'll never succeed.
Yeah, I know he's kind of making the content for people asking about selling private jets, but also for entrepreneurs, so he's got a wider audience. But I will say that I have that kind of personality where, like, if I get something in my brain, I will make sure it's done. And that can be a detriment sometimes because I'll be so uber focused on this. Like if I see, a new piece of technology like this or the roadcaster that I use, and I'm like, oh, I really need that. Like, even though it might not be the best timing, I'll just like be obsessed with going and getting that. So that personality that just is like, this is what needs to get done and I'll do whatever it takes. That's really important.
When I first started my business here at the jet business, we had a few obstacles because this was a concept that just was a crazy concept. Nobody ever thought of building a shop or a store front to sell corporate jets. So we had to really create, what do I put in the window? I didn't want people to think we're a travel agency, we're selling model airplanes, things like that. So the design was really important. We had to build the technology, the data for the app on the video wall. We had to really market ourselves correctly. So for the first 6 months, we really weren't hitting our stride. It took a long time, more after the 6 months, to really get the sort of locomotive out of the station and pick up the speed. Once after we got the message across and the people in the office knew what we were supposed to be doing and how we were pitching it to the media and to our clients, we started getting 1, 2, 3 deals over the wall. And then all of a sudden we picked up some traction, and now we got a pretty good deal flow that keeps us going forward.
So I agree. It's going to take a lot more work than you think it is. I'm only about 2 years into the Ultimate Jet Guide and Jet Life Aero on my own brokerage, and I am definitely finding that it's taking longer than I thought. But that's okay. You just got to lean into the process and know that. And that's why when people come in, I know you can I got a commission I think within 3 to 4 months. But I'm telling people it's going to take 6 to 9 months to get your first commission, just because it takes longer than you think, especially because people come in here and they're like, oh, yeah, I can make phone calls, no problem. But then I look at the data and it's like, you're not making 50 to 100 calls. Guess what? The guy who's making the 50 to 100 calls a day, he got a listing in within 30 days. I'm just reiterating what Steve is saying. Like, it's going to take a lot of work, and don't think you can shortcut it. I like this next tip.
Deal with a lot of powerful people, wealthy people, people in government, in public office, in corporations, mostly big corporate executives, chairmen, CEOs, C-level kind of people, billionaires, celebrity kind. There's such a large gamut of cross-section of people we deal with. But some of the things you really know about talking to all these people is that you have to listen. You have to listen to what they say, because what they will tell you, it makes you sort of evolve the pitch that you're going to give them. And you want to basically find what kind of problem they're trying to solve for. And the more you listen to what they're telling you, you can put these little pieces of the puzzle together to make that picture as complete as possible, so that you can actually know what the objective is. Because sometimes it's just not clear. Sometimes
into more detail about it, but listen, please listen, be coachable. That's listening to the clients, because they'll help, know how to sell them, but also listen to other people around you. Listen to the Steves of the world, listen to the Av buyers, listen to the Jet Avivas, the Global Airs. Like, take in information, always be listening, and have that humble spirit, and that'll take you a long way.
they don't even know. And by them talking it out, basically instructs you and teaches you what kind of goals they want to reach, which means which kind of goals you have to meet in order to deliver them a product that they are going to be happy with. And what we learned from these people, you are being tested constantly. They are used to people doing what they say and having no excuses. I've learned to not say no. We'll say, let me find out if I don't know the answer. If I don't think it's possible, I'll say I don't think it's possible, but not at the beginning, because I will double check, triple check, quadruple check.
I love this. That he says, never say no, figure it out. Right. One of our values is positivity and resilience. we're a glass half full kind of people. And even if we think the answer is no, we don't just come back. And I got this a lot when I was working with another agency. Like, they would tell people like, you're asking too much money for it. Like, from like the first conversation, or that's crazy, or that's ridiculous. It's like, hold on a second. And I see this all the time. Like, you know, mediocre brokers, they maybe mediocre is not the right word for it, but brokers that I don't like to work with, they just throw stuff out there like, this is ridiculous, or this can't happen, or this is impossible. It's like, okay, even if you think that, can we think about how we're presenting that so that we can still get the deal done? Because if you just slam the door, nobody gets paid. And so I love this, especially if you're working with a client and they want $1 million for their $700,000 jet, and in your head like, okay, that's not going to work. Well, there's still ways to do that. You go back, you double check, you check the market stats, and be like, hey, Bob, listen, if you want $1 million for your jet, I'm with you 100%. Here's the market comps. So I think we're going to have a little bit of an uphill battle, but I'm still on your team, and let's see what we can do. Let's roll. All right. So that positivity mixed with that humility, mixed with the transparency, it all kind of comes together in what he's talking about.
To see if there's any way around getting to a solution. Definitely what I learned is don't say no. Another thing I've learned from all these successful industrialists, billionaires, business people, you can't get an overnight success. Everybody just dreams of these people creating an app and boom, the next day you have $1 billion. It really doesn't work that way. Nobody ever understands the thousands and thousands of sleepless nights most entrepreneurs have before they hit that overnight success. It reminds me of this saying that Ratan Tata, like an 87-year-old industrialist from India, a very successful guy with multiple companies. He says that slow success builds character. Fast success builds ego. Just something to keep in mind. If I was 21 again, what would I do differently? Wow. I don't know, that's a big question. I actually enjoyed really every bit of my life. I think one of the things I do differently is maybe sort of get into the entrepreneur job, start my own business much earlier than I really did. I really worked for somebody, a lot of people, through my teens, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and they were very, very demanding people, not just in sales, but in the sort of corporate takeovers, mergers and acquisitions, private equity. And I worked really for a lot of powerful kind of people. They taught me just how to work around the clock and just don't take no for an answer. If I was 21 now, I think I would start my own business earlier. You just don't learn until you really try. You can learn, you can read, but until you really put the motion in action and actually do what you're supposed to try to do, you're never going to learn if it's going to be possible or not. Why?
I like this piece of advice because it really speaks to this idea that like you need to put yourself out there. It's one of the reasons why I like sales and why I like a commission-based job, is because you only get paid on what you only eat what you kill. And so one of the nice things with Jet Life Aero is that when people work with Jet Life Aero, you're essentially working for yourself. Number one, it's commission only. Number two, we also allow you to kind of build your own brand within the company itself. We're not afraid to allow you to be Tom's Jets, an affiliate of Jet Life Aero, where you can still leverage our resources, but you're still building your own brand, your own name. We want that for people. We're an agent-focused agency, and so that's what's one of the nice things, with Jet Life Aero, is that we actually will encourage you to start your own business.
Why did I build this fuselage? The biggest reason I built the fuselage is I wanted to get the attention of every potential client that drove down Park Lane. There's almost 100,000 vehicles every day that go up and down this street. And we calculated that there are something like 1,500 millionaires and dozens of people who own a jet that travel past the window every day. And I wanted to make sure that if they saw this window, they wanted to have curiosity, what was going on in there. It was going to sort of get their attention and then eventually get them to come in. If they passed the window enough, their curiosity is going to get them, and they're going to want to come in this office. And once they do, then it's up to us to get them into the video wall, get them into the technology, to show them the data we have, all the information we have, and how much we know about this industry. If they are a potential client, we'll get them. What did I learn from failures? Wow, you learn everything from failures, okay? But if you don't try, if you don't move forward, if you don't sort of execute a plan, you can't fail.
I love this, this idea of learning from your failures, because in sales, and especially in jet sales, like, you're going to fail every single day. And so our values of honesty and humility are really important here, because we just have to realize, like, okay, we don't know everything, but that's okay. I think this idea of being able to fail is you have to put yourself in an environment where it's okay to fail. Sometimes you go into a job and like failure is not an option. That's not a good environment because you never learn. I feel like you either win or you learn. And and so there's almost no such thing as failure in some ways. But again, we try to create a positive environment so that we understand you're coming in here with no experience. We understand you need to get educated. We understand that you're going to face things you've never faced before, rejection like you've never faced before. But that's okay. That's to be expected. And so wherever you find yourself, if you're going to start your own jet business, that's cool. But make sure you're surrounding yourself with other business owners or other brokers that can support you, because it's going to be hard when you fail. Or if you're joining another brokerage, like ask that, like, how do you guys deal with failure? That's an interesting question to ask a boss. Like, how do you deal with when an employee is struggling with something? Is that encouraged? Because that struggle leads to growth. So I think failure is definitely important.
You can always talk about doing something, but if you just keep talking about it, you never fail. And if you don't fail, you're never going to learn. Reading out of a book, how to execute a business plan, how to build a business, it's nice in theory, but until you really do it, you won't know.
Exactly. It takes experience. It takes getting into. It's that Teddy Roosevelt quote about the gladiator. It's not the guy in the stands, it's the one in the gladiator who actually goes into the arena to do the fight. That's the guy that deserves the spoils.
And a lot of times people ask, if you started from zero today, what would you do first? It's so tough out there in the world. There's so much competition and things. But I really think that today it's so much easier to go from 0 to 10 than it was, 10, 20, 30 years ago. Before you needed to have, money. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have any of these technologies that really you could be sitting in a bedroom of an apartment, create a website, create a company, buying some product from someplace in the world and selling it someplace else. You can do so much research just at your fingers touch. There's now with ChatGPT and AI, it's amazing how educated you get on any subject in a second. So if you really think that, I have an idea, it's so easy to see on the internet if somebody else has that idea. Is it a waste of time to do it? So really, you could do some research really quick at that 0 point and see if it's a good idea. And then you can go each step along the way. You can find resources, you can find people to help you, you can find reports, data, everything off the internet. So I think that really starting from scratch today for the younger generation is just so much easier. The problem is you have to have that determination to sit home or sit in an office, get a group of friends together to really have like-minded energy and determination to drive forward and really not think about just going out and partying and texting your friends and things like that.
Yeah, so he talks about how it's easier because we have more resources, but also think it's harder because those resources lull you into a false sense of security. And one of the great things, that we have is we have the Circle community, right? Circle.jetlifearrow.com. And I'll be sharing that at the end of the video today, where you can basically learn how to be a jet broker for free. All the stuff is there, but you gotta actually put the effort in to go through the course. You also have to ask questions, and then that's how you get the education is. So while it's certainly easier because the resources are available, I think it's harder because people are used to having things served to them on demand, the information, but then how do you put the information into action? That's the challenge. And finding a place where you can put that information into action and having those opportunities, that's also a challenge, especially when it comes to private aviation, because a lot of the places that, first of all, people don't even know how to Google, private jet broker in my area and find companies. Secondly, if you finally get a hold of a company and they actually email you back, they're usually looking for a reference or experience or a book of business that you already have, and you might not have that. So just getting your foot in the door can be a real challenge, despite having all the resources that he talks about.
I mean, really, you have to be so dedicated and want to do nothing else but succeed. If you don't have that drive, then you'll get a job working for somebody else. I like to read when I'm traveling. It sort of continues my education process, besides for learning from all the different clients that I deal with. But basically, the three standout, I think, books that come to mind that really have an impression on me are one by Tony Robbins. It's called Life Force. I'm into longevity, anti-aging things as I age, which I'm doing. I'm trying to find ways to basically live my life healthy, really take care of my health, right, rather than take care of my sicknesses. So really healthcare instead of sick care. Such an easy to read book about every single kind of advancement in the medical field. that's easy to understand. Everything from longevity, anti-aging, any kind of medications, anything that you really want to know how to sort of extend your life in a much more healthy feeling, in a healthy body, internally, exterior, and in mind. Next book is Peter Diamandis. Wrote a book called The Future is Faster Than You Think. But that book really shows you how quick the future is upon us. Now he's really getting more into the artificial intelligence and things like that. But he's usually on the cutting edge of most of the technologies, and it's a great book to see what things are coming. And actually, probably a lot of them are already here and past because the book came out a few years ago. But it's a great book to sort of get yourself up to speed on really where this world's going from as far as technologies. And the third book is my all-time favorite, which is Atlas Shrugged. It's been written by a lady named Ayn Rand. She was a Russian immigrant back in the 1950s. It's really a book that talks about altruism versus capitalism and how the world really needs this capitalism to basically assist with bringing intellectual property and bringing new ideas and sort of businesses forward and really developing technologies in any industry and how they're so important to help any country advance. If you really don't support the people that are building these industries, then all of a sudden these people just decide not to build these businesses. It's sort of a disincentive. And eventually, if you don't have all these people that create and to build anything in the world, any sector, if you don't give these people incentives to sort of create, then all of a sudden you have no creation and you just get a deterioration of civilization. It's a book that was written 60, 70 years ago, but it actually is a fictional book, and it's a great education on why this mindset is so important to have. If you have any more questions that I can answer, please add them in the.
That's really interesting. That's cool that he did a few books at the very end. Yeah. So about the Ayn Rand book, I think was one thing that's really interesting is a lot of times I will have people, critique private aviation, like, oh, it's terrible for the environment, and there's just rich people getting richer and all this kind of stuff. And I think to the point of the book, I haven't read it, but what I will bring up to people is like, don't forget when you're flying private, when you're investing by buying a private jet, you're investing into an entire ecosystem that goes way beyond just the person in the seats, right? You're employing pilots, you're employing the people who train the pilots, you are employing the manufacturer of the aircraft, you're employing the manufacturers of the avionics, the technology that's in it, the engines that are in it. And that engine and avionics technology, like that trickles down to like GPSs that we have in our cars nowadays, the internet technology dribbles down, the sustainability, the fuel, the making jet fuel more green. I mean, that trickles down. The hierarchy of workers that are part, the line people, the fuel people, the customer service people, the tech people, the mechanics. I mean, it's just a whole entire ecosystem that, if you stop flying private, it just kills an entire, ecosystem, I keep saying, of individuals. So it's you can't villainize the owners of the jets because they are part of why there's an entire opportunity for people to not only live and make a living, but to thrive by pushing things like technology, sustainability, etc. Let me share a few of my favorite books with you guys. One of which was just called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. For the very first beginning of my aviation journey, 10X was what it was all about. I just love the mindset of just, what Steve talked about, action, putting things into action. You can you're either doing something or you're not doing something. And this action is really important. So Grant Cardone, I like his stuff a lot. Recently read this while I was doing 75 hard. David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, just to be able to see like what people like, what your mind can do and how far you can push, even when things aren't going your way. I think that was a great example of that. And it definitely helped me with my mental like fortitude, my mental strength to be able to push through different obstacles. This is a recent one, $100 million offers by Alex Hormozy. Anything Alex Hormozy for business stuff, I think is really, really good. I think he's really good at explaining business and just working smarter, especially in the new economy that we have here, this online thing. So that's really cool. Start with the Why, Simon Sinek. I've watched the video, I haven't read the book, but just this idea of how how creating your work environment, whether it's the environment, a team environment, whether it's a team with your family or your workers, your business, or just the people around you, it all has to come down to the why. Like what are we trying to achieve? And I think if you understand that concept, it helps avoid a lot of misinformation, a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration in deals and in conversations, because you're able to see through people yelling at each other and be like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, what's the actual goal that we're trying to achieve? Okay, let's move forward. And then last but not least, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't throw out the ultimate jet guide, right? If you want to be if you're a buyer or a broker, it's a great guide of buying a jet with no experience necessary. So with that, guys, I appreciate y'all being here. I want to show you one other thing, and that is the Circle community. So if you're an aspiring jet broker, check out our Circle community, circle.jetlifearrow.com. Let's see if I have it here. There you go. Join today's circle.jetlifearrow.com. And this is just a community for aspiring brokers where there's a discussion board. You can ask questions and get your questions answered. Okay. Introduce yourself and people can help you out. We also have a resources tab where you can get listing checklists and samples. So if you're trying to list something, we tell you exactly what you need to do for your listing. What are the information that you're going to want to get? Sample thank you letters. Okay. How to handle buyer calls. I mean, it's all there. It's all for free. We also will have a Become a Broker course. This is free. So if you view the course, you're going to learn everything from getting started, what apps you need, aviation documents overview, how brokers get paid. This is important, how deals get done. So I walk you through getting a listing, all the steps that you need to do in order to get paid, right? And again, this is free. So getting a listing, preparing the specs, purchase agreement, pre-buy, prepare for delivery. And then we go into more details for all the 10 steps that it takes to sell a jet. And then there's a video that you can watch to explain it to you. But yeah, there's a lot here. So I would encourage you to go. It's free. Circle.jetlifearrow.com. We have more resources that are paid, but this is the free way. So you can either do the free way or the headache-free way if you want to. But you can feel free to ask me more questions about that. But we're here every Wednesday. I won't be here next week because I have a previous engagement. But with that in mind, I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch you later.